The Neighbourhood Watch by Remy Ingamije, Rwanda and Namibia. Elias roughly shakes everyone awake. For breakfast, a chorus of yawns sprinkled with stretching. There is some grumbling. Then everyone starts folding their blankets and pieces of cardboard. A can of water is passed around. Everyone cups a handful and splashes their faces. Elias goes first, then Lazarus, then Silas, and then Omagano. There is little left when it reaches Martin, the newest and youngest member of the Neighbourhood Watch. When the can is empty, it is stashed away with the other valuables in a nook under the concrete abutment of the bridge. The bridge's underside is precious real estate. When it rains, it remains dry, and in winter, it wards off some of the cold. More than once, it has been defended against a rival posse. It belongs to the Neighbourhood Watch now, and everyone else tends to leave it alone. The NW sprayed onto the bridge's supporting column has the same effect as musty pee at the edge of a leopard's territory. It promises bloody reprisal if any encroachment is made onto the land. The Neighbourhood Watch's hidden stash is as safe as their fierce reputation and basic street common sense permits it to be. Generally, stealing is frowned upon. Stealing is bad because it makes everything a free-for-all and then everyone has to lug their scant possessions around to protect them. More luggage means slower foraging. It also means pushing one's poverty around in broad daylight. Nobody likes a thief. The light of day is not full-born when they set out. Elias, the oldest and the leader, sets out with his lieutenant, Lazarus. Omagano goes with them, trying to straighten the kinks in his hair, using her fingers as a comb teeth. They head to town since they have the best clothes and will not stand out too much or draw the ire of the city police patrols or the judging stares of security guards. If they walk slowly enough, other pedestrians will not catch their stench. On any given day, they have a multitude of things to worry about, and shame is one of the first things a person learns to shed on the street. But smelling bad is something they try to avoid as much as possible. People's eyes can accept a man in tattered, browned, and dirty clothing, even in a store or a church, but a smelly man is despised everywhere. Elias knows most of the kitchen staff in the city's hotels and restaurants. They call him soldier or captain. Sometimes the staff leave out almost decaying produce for him and his group. Some potatoes with brown skins, mangoes which dimple at the slightest pressure, or wrinkled carrots. When they are feeling especially kind, the cooks give him some smushed leftovers from the previous night in styrofoam containers, half-eaten burgers, chips drowning in sauce, salads picked clean of feta. But that is only sometimes. The kitchen staff have to squirrel away leftovers for their own families, so there is little left for them to put aside for Elias. The real prizes are the overflowing bins behind the restaurants. In the early morning, with steam billowing around vents, with the bins laden with last night's throwaways, it is possible to get lucky and find some edible, semi-fresh morsels. By late morning, the sun turns them into rotting compost heaps. The Neighbourhood Watch knows the early bird does not catch the worm. Elias, Lazarus, and Omagano lengthen their strides to get to town in time. Elias has a racking cough. He pulls the mucus through the back of his mouth and arcs a dollop away where it lands with a plop. The cough becomes worse each day. Sometimes there is blood in the gunk from his chest, but he waves everyone's concerns away. Blood is a part of life. Blood is a part of death. He does not argue with his biology. His graying hair is unevenly cut, but not so much that it draws attention. Omagano managed to do a decent job with the scissors. Like cell phones, Silas likes risk. He has a habit of discovering things that have had previous owners. I have 3 trolleys, but they are not too eager to add to their collection. Trolleys take up space, and their value can embolden thieves. Where did you get that? Elias will ask. Discovered it, Silas will reply. Shrinking of the shoulders, curl of the lip. Elias constantly warns him not to be a Christopher Columbus, and Lazarus threatens him, but there is nothing to be done about it. Silas steals. If he finds something worth selling, then they share the proceeds. But if he gets caught stealing and is beaten or arrested, then he had it coming. He is short and skinny, but he screams danger to anyone who knows that he looked for. A cocksure walk, an impish grin, eyes that never look away, and hands that hover over a certain pocket when the talk around him gets too rough. Martin follows him around, learning the codes of the street, trying to look tough too, which is hard to do when he has to pull his baggy trousers up every couple of steps. With the width of the streets, the height of the buildings, and the number of people walking around, two groups work separately and meet up in the afternoon. The food they share at lunch: half a loaf of brown bread, some salt, mashed potatoes, soft green leaves, and some very valuable crew has a stack of newspapers, plastic, apples, and two battered floppy rotis. Elias has fries on one. Lazarus takes the other. "Anna's blick tonight?" Elias says when they finish eating. "Get some sleep now. It is too hot to be on the streets now. Night is a better and more lucrative time for the Neighbourhood Watch. Anna's blick is nice. They still know how to throw away things there. If they hit the bins early enough, they can score some good things. Brokies, old common and cheap, plastic hats, bottles, Telon pots or pan scrubber raw and rendered common and brand new flat-screen television cardboard boxes, and maybe some food. Omagano and Mr. Martin will push the trolley. Elias, Lazarus, and Silas will scout ahead, opening bins, perusing the wares, gauging the value of the detritus of suburbia. The only problem with Anna's blick is how far it island. The further the city spreads itself out, the further the foragers have to go. And Anna's blick is getting fat, it is already spilling over its sides. New plots are going up for sale. Tractors gnaw into steep hillsides. The peaceful, sleepy dustbin harvest there means more and more crews are creeping in. Soon it will be overcrowded. Like Olympia and Sunderland, Pioneer Spark used to find worthwhile, but these days it is not. Too many heads peeking through curtains to find the source of disturbances, too many dogs barking, too many patrolling vehicles with angry, shouting men. Bierry Kaffritz, Ganweg. The earlier the Neighbourhood Watch can get to Annesblick, the better. Annesblick is Die Biste Vulisblick, Tuesdays and Thursdays, in days past. Katutura, Hakahana, Goriangab, Wanaheda, and Okoriangava. Poor people only throw away garbage. And babies. Garbage is disgusting. Babies are useless. That is why the Neighbourhood Watch have stopped scavenging on the other side of town. When Elias and Lazarus were just starting out, they used to flick through every bin they could find in every suburb they could reach, walking blisters onto their feet and holes into their shoes. They were indiscriminate and desperate and always hungry. Every bin was fair game. Elias had been by himself for a long time before he met Lazarus. Finding enough to eat and all of the other paraphernalia he needed to survive a day on the streets by himself was taxing. When he proposed an alliance, in the light of a burning drum under a bridge in town, Lazarus was hesitant at first. In his sleep, he still heard the bombs as they dropped on Kasinga. Sometimes the Shumbas would grunt from afar and he would almost piss himself. Lazarus shook him awake. The two men regarded each other as equals, both outcast by their former allegiances. Lazarus never volunteered information about his prison stint. Elias never asked. Everyone brought a pass to the street, and the present was always hungry. The street snacked on those who regretted, those who dreamt of a tomorrow that was still required today to be survived. That was the first thing Elias told Lazarus. The street has no future. There is only today. And today you need food. Today you need shelter. In his sleep, he still heard the bombs as they dropped on Kasinga. Sometimes the Shumbas would grunt from afar and he would almost piss himself. Lazarus shook him awake. The two men regarded each other as equals, both outcast by their former allegiances. Lazarus never volunteered information about his prison stint. Elias never asked. Everyone brought a pass to the street, and the present was always hungry. The street snacked on those who regretted, those who dreamt of a tomorrow that was still required today to be survived. That was the first thing Elias told Lazarus. The street has no future. There is only today. And today you need food. Today you need shelter. Today you need to take care of today. On garbage days, the two would methodically scour every bin they could find in their old territories of Katutura, Hakahana, Goriangab, Wanaheda, and Okoriangava. But poor people's bins are slim pickings, and Elias and Lazarus talk about those days learnedly, trying to pass on what they know to Martin, Silas, and Omagano. When we started out, we weren't picky. We had to survive, Elias says. When you have to survive, you don't get to choose what you have to do, Lazarus trails. Everywhere we went. Everything. We did. We had to survive, Julie Ken. But you can't survive by being around people who are also trying to survive, Elias continues. All you'll get is whatever they don't need to survive, you see. You need to go where people have enough to throw away. Where there are white people. Lazarus laughs a little. Or black people trying to be white people. Then you can survive there. Remember when we found the baby? Lazarus asks. This is a common evening tale. That was when we knew we had to upgrade. We are going through the bins, in neighborhoods where we even have cousins, aunts, and uncles. In places where people might know us. But we go through them. To survive just to survive. Elias's voice becomes grave. Usually, in a bin, you have to be ready to find shit. Old food, used condoms, women's things with blood on them, broken things. Those things are fine. When things don't have a use, they get thrown away, nay? But this time, we are in a big bin by the side of the road. I reach for some newspapers. I see so we can start a fire that night. They are wrapped around something and I lift it up. When I open it, I scream and I run. I think he's lying a little, Lazarus chuckles. I have some kids. I saw a baby swing into a thick piece of wood. Then he becomes quiet. But I take the newspapers. The baby met sy umbilical cord vashgedry sy neck, jire, jisses. I take the papers. Dead dog, it is okay, Elias says. Dead person, it is okay. It is witchcraft. Cat, he writes this. Omagano nods in her agreement. Silas laughs down his alembic throat. Martin's face shows the anxiety and revulsion, and that makes me laugh. We are new to the streets. People die, nay? It is okay. I may be the dead person, though. He was smart and tall, something foolish, and now he is not going to say anything foolish ever again. Dead person is okay. But dead baby? That is something else. Dead baby is evil, Lazarus says. Omagano wraps her arms underneath her breasts and rocks herself a little. So, Elias says after a while, we get smart. We move away from poor people. We find a flyer from the municipality with all of the rubbish collection dates. We make a timetable and we start watching the neighborhoods even before there is a neighborhood watch. On Tuesday and Thursday nights, we stop going to poor people's places because poor people have nothing left to throw away but themselves. Wednesdays. In days past, Komesdal are some neighborhoods not worth fighting over. Dorado Park and Komesdal are crowded with other starving, roving cliques. The neighborhoods are already spoken for. All the places that break the wind have long-term tenants, and all the generous churches already have their squabbling regulars. The Neighborhood Watch never enters Komesdal because people drink too much there. Alcohol is what took Amos. Not really. It was pride. After a particularly good week, Elias, Lazarus, and Amos decided to water their throats at one of the many bottle stores that siphon husbands away from their wives and families on Friday and Saturday nights. They shared 3 quarts of Zamalek to start, then a cheap whiskey, then some more beer. If there were 2 things Amos could never hold, it was his tongue and his drink. But it was his tongue that carried more consequences. It was his tongue that cursed people with swear words that could scour the grime and funk off a dirty pavement. It was his tongue that goaded people on. It was his tongue that called someone an ugly word. That same tongue refused to apologize for the slight. Amos could never bring himself to back down from anything. Then there were 3 things Amos could not hold: his tongue, his drink, and his guts. The knife flashed quickly. In, out, and then slashed across. Amos looked at his bloody hands and tottered on the spot. Before the fall comes, everyone ran. If there is one thing that is bad for everyone on the streets, friend or foe, temporarily housed or permanently on the pavement, it is a dead body. A dead body has to be explained to the police, who like their explanations to be delivered quickly. By slow explanations, someone lies in the back of a police van. By the time they throw someone in the holding cell, half the crime has already been solved. The paperwork is what seems to frustrate them the most. That is why everyone ran, even Elias and Lazarus. The first thing the police do is look for the dead body's living pals. They ask questions. Hard, pointed questions. If they know someone is innocent, they kick harder. But if someone has the good sense to be quietly sent up, then the police want somebody to ask questions about cuts, bruises, and lumps. Sometimes, when there has been a spate of robberies or a murder the police cannot close quickly enough, they come around and ask someone to take the fall. Jail has food and shelter, and sometimes that looks like a good deal. It is a mistake that has made headlines. They will offer even better conditions. A single cell maybe put you in the same block as a friend. Sometimes, someone takes the offer. The streets are not for everyone. Elias and Lazarus ran until their lungs gave out. Then they were questioned on the street, roughly at first, and then they were questioned politely. Elias and Lazarus were interrogated when the police finally caught up with Elias and Lazarus. They continued on. When they were eventually let go because they refused to change their story. Yes, they were there when Amos was stabbed. They ran because they were afraid. No, they did not do it. No, they would not say that they did it. No, they did not see who did it. No, they could not identify anyone if they were shown pictures. Could they then, to a reasonable degree, and of course a bruised, bleeding degree, be certain that they had not, in fact, murdered Amos for $200 and then run away after ditching the bloody knife that lay on the table in front of them? Yes, they could be. For their reasonableness, they were let go with a warning, swollen eyes, 3 broken ribs a pair, and limbs that took days to heal a bargain, really, all things considered. Bones heal, cuts stop bleeding. Everything grows over or grows back, except life. Elias and Lazarus were lucky, but they chose not to go back to Comestal in case the man who killed Amos thought they were out for retribution. Friday and Saturday. Headquarters Friday and Saturday are generally spent under the bridge at headquarters. Elias calls it that because when they are low on cash that needs to be looked for, he says it is a good place to be. When someone needs to be found, they go to the bridge. It is broken heads and thorns, Tampax, Tiffies, and when they are in the struggle. He calls it headquarters, for it is a police day place to be on Friday and Saturday, says it is time for the cats. Headquarters is most likely to find yourself looking for any signs of mischief. These are the days when men must maintain their position. Amos died on a Friday night. Those are the days when Pride Island. Silas cannot resist a living headquarters, though. He calls to Martin to join him, but Silas says no. Martin may go if Silas is going. He must go by himself. If mischief finds him, he must know no one called. Silas is looking for him. Elias, Lazarus, Omagano, and Martin come to headquarters and talk about what they saw in the streets that day. They sit in with the fools who sit by the roadside in Klein Windhoek and Eros, hoping they can paint a room, fix a window, install a sink, or lay some tiles. They are too proud to be like us, Elias says. But they are the ones going home hungry every day. Pride is poor food, Lazarus says. But sometimes they can find a job, Martin chirps. They can, sometimes, Elias answers. But they can find a job as often as we can find $20,000. How many times have we found $20,000? Martin's brow furrows as he thinks, and that makes Lazarus laugh. Idiot, he says. Maybe things can get better for them, Martin says. Elias and Lazarus look at him, and then at each other. They sense hope, the spore that leads the street to your hiding place. Maybe is tomorrow, lady, buddy, Lazarus says. And there is only today, Elias adds. Today you need food. Today you need shelter. Today you need to take care of today. And tomorrow, Martin asks. Omagano hartums. Every day is today, Elias says. Sundays. Avis, Klein Windhoek, and Eros Sundays are the best days. Eros and Klein Windhoek have the highest walls, dogs safely penned behind fences, bins lined up on the pavement, and, most importantly, people who recycle. The paper, cardboard, plastic bottles, tin cans, and aluminium foil are sorted into separate plastic bags. Some people even wash the trash before they throw it away. Everything else that is of no use goes in the big green bins, which is a much more efficient way to forage. It saves time, mitigates disappointment. Those suburbs are also close to headquarters, so the neighborhood watch does not have to stray too far from their home. The only thing about Eros is old Mrs. Bezwidenhout. She sits on her front porch in the early evening with her knitting and waits for the neighborhood watch to come by. When she sees them wheeling their trolley full of other people's trash, she invites them in. She gives them things from her house. They wait while she makes her slow, brittle way to the gate as she goes into her house. She waits for them, in person watching her every step. Her gait slides over a reading in and out on her gums. Her son-in-law has to mash up everything for her. She gives them a bag of mealie meal, a tin or two of beans and peas, 2 or 3 bananas. She saves them the small plastic bag bottles of water. In winter, she gives them the circle of mirror that shatters their appearance on some days of wool. She hands them old clothes and knit jerseys or blankets from an endless supply of wool. They take the things, and they thank her. When she leaves, they read with their fingers in the dead of night, when only God and the street read. The neighborhood watch has 3 pillars: Elias's street savoir, fair, Lazarus's hardened violence, and Mrs. Bezwidenhout's generosity. For her, the neighborhood watch is her memory of the gangs of Windhoek if they had to. Lazarus is not a believer, but even he says Mrs. Bezwidenhout is worth praying for, and to. When she sees them, she asks them how they are. Elias replies for them. One is okay, Mevrouw Bezwidenhout. She asks them if they need anything else. Silas once asked Elias why he never asked for toothbrushes, or soap, or medicine, or a space in her garage where they could sleep. If she was being so generous, Elias said it was because Mrs. Bezwidenhout took from them more than she gave. She gives, and we take, and we take. Soon she will not be around to give, but we will still be around to take. We must give something from her home to us and take some of the street away from us. We need all of the street to survive the street. You understand now? The neighborhood watch starts in Avis as the sun is setting, hunting for the new apartment complexes that have just been built. Avis is where they start every other day, scavenging away from joggers who first avert their eyes when they see them, and dog walkers who slacken their grips on their leashes. Then they reverse the steep hills of Windhoek, where people only put out their bins at the crack of dawn to dissuade the dustbin divers from perambulating through their streets. That is how bad it has become, Lazarus says. The rich have got so rich, they have started hoarding their trash. From there, they scour Eros, from top to bottom, through all the streets named after mountains they will never climb, the rivers they shall never see, all the precious stones they will never hold. Everest, Atlas and the Drakensberg, Orange, Kunene, Okavango, and Quiseb, Amethyst, Topaz and Tourmaline. They rove and roam across the neighborhood like wildebeest following the rains, the street following them like a hungry predator. They leave Mrs. Bezwidenhout's street for last, eager for her kindness, afraid of the day when there will no longer be enough to give and give, when they will still need to take and take, when there will not be enough street in them to face the street. The day before they hit Eros, the day before they visit Mrs. Bezwidenhout, the neighborhood watch breaks their one rule. They start thinking of the day that is not today. They say goodbye to the day that is yesterday, and worse, they start thinking of the day that is tomorrow.